The simplest and the recommended way to get an operating system onto your Raspberry Pi is by using the Raspberry Pi Imager application. Now I'm on my Mac here, so if we go to raspberrypi.com and click on software, and I will of course put this link in the notes, we get to this page. It really is this simple. Download for my Mac OS, which is what I'm on at the moment. I'm going to download this program. Okay, and then I can go over here. I can look in my downloads folder, and there it is. If I then double click on that, it's just going to check a few things, and then it'll open up this window, and you drag the Raspberry Pi Imager app into your applications folder like you do with many other apps, and there it is. It's that simple. I'll just close these windows down for a second. I don't need that anymore. I can close that down. Let's get rid of that, and I can get rid of my browser out of the way, and then there we go. I've been searching for that Raspberry Pi Imager app. If I open that, because it's the first time I've installed it, it's going to ask me if it's okay to open. I'm going to say yep. And there she is, the Raspberry Pi Imager app. And now that you have the Raspberry Pi Imager app downloaded and installed on your system, we now need to create an image of the Raspberry Pi operating system onto your SD card. So first thing to do, we'll open up Raspberry Pi Imager app. Now, just one thing to note, if you have purchased an SD card which is larger than 32 gigabytes, then you will need to format it into the FAT32 system, File Allocation Table 32. When you buy them, when you buy the SDXC cards, the extended capacity from 64 gigabits up, they are generally formatted in an XFAT format. We can discuss about the formats a bit later, but you will need to reformat it into FAT32 in order for the Raspberry Pi operating system to go onto it and to be recognized by the Raspberry Pi hardware. So in our app, so we're here, we have the choose operating system. One of the options we have down here is erase card as FAT32. It's that simple. Erase, it says format card as FAT32. Okay, and then we can choose the storage. There's my SD card that I've already put in. I'm going to select that and I'm going to click write. It really is as simple as that. All existing data on the SanDisk media will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, I am. And a little bit of going backward and forward. It's been erased. So now our next thing is to pick an operating system. So the recommended version is Raspberry Pi OS, the 32-bit version, and we will dive in a bit deeper into 32-bit a bit later on. And you can see this is 1.2 gigabytes. What this has, so don't worry about it being a port of Debian too much, but it's a Raspberry Pi with a desktop application included. In other words, it has sort of windows like this. There are some other versions available. Now there's a light version which is basically doesn't have the graphical user interface, the desktop environment, and has, only has the basic programs needed to keep going, and then you add what you need in. And this is if you want to just do command line. It's a really good thing to learn, and we are going to do some command line down the line, but we don't, we're going to go with the desktop environment first. The other version is the full version, which comes with other applications as well. So it's a big, but it's a lot bigger. It's 2.8 gigabytes. So we are going to go with the Raspberry the Raspberry Pi OS. Forgive me for keep saying Raspberry, and it did used to be called Rasparian, and I'll talk to you about that in another side lecture as well. So we're going to select the Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit, choose storage, there's my disk, and I'm going to click Write. Yes, it is going to erase everything. Thank you very much. For me, it's asking me for a password because it's on a Mac, so I will add in my password. And there we go. We can see it's writing, and that's going to take a few minutes to sort itself out. So it's a bit like watching paint dry. Seven, 98, 99. Complete. Yeah, and we're going into a verifying phase, which is very important. It's just checking the integrity of the file that it's written to the disk, or the files, the data files. So just take a minute to do. If that, going a lot quicker than the actual writing. And there you have it. Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit has been written to the SanDisk media. You can now remove the SD card from the reader. So there we go. We can close that down. I can close that down, and I can pull the card out, and I can now go and put it in one of the Raspberry Pis and get booted up.